Welcome to Miracle Distribution Center's live stream meeting on A Course in Miracles. If you miss any of tonight's broadcast or would like to view previous meetings, you can become a subscriber below and access our video archives to experience the practical power of the Course at your convenience. The suggested tax-deductible donation for this meeting is $10, but feel free to give whatever you can. Right now, join us live with Center's founder, Beverly Hutchinson McNeff.
Welcome and Happy New Year. We are in 2018. We finally made it. And I want to welcome you to this miracle moment. This is going to be a little different miracle moment than maybe you are used to, because we're going to combine the first of the year thought that's in our prayer ministry, I am Spirit, because I want you to really experience the focus we need to have as this new year begins. This new year, we need to make it different, as the Course would say, by making it all the same. And that is the wish that the Course gives us for the new year. And then it blesses us by saying this about this newfound purpose. You know, last year in our 2017 flip calendar, or our wall calendar, we had this beautiful thought that said, your newborn purpose is nursed by angels, cherished by the Holy Spirit, and protected by God Himself. Think about that. This is the guarantee that we have. With that our newborn purpose, this new awareness of the Spirit, of being Spirit, of that truth being our reality, is nursed by angels. It is cherished by the Holy Spirit, and it is protected by God Himself. That kind of guarantee should really embolden us as we move into this new year, that miracles are our right, and that it is now time for us to experience those miracles, to be focused on that. You may wonder why I'm so excited or feel so focused on that. Well, this is the Center's 40th birthday. As we start 2018, we move into our 40th year of service. And I'm going to tell you right now that my brother and I, when we founded the Center back in 1978, had no idea that this is what it would become. We had no idea what we were doing. We just knew that we wanted to be of service to those who were studying A Course in Miracles so that we could learn. And as we did it, the center just grew. And those of you who joined with us, we all grew together. And so I am so honored and blessed to be able to be sitting here after 40 years, and we're still here. And it reminds me of the old saying, we're here because this work is just too important to fail. Whether it's in our global world or whether it's in our interpersonal relationships, we all need to allow that Spirit to be born in us. And that's what can happen. Our newborn purpose right now, this awareness, is nursed by angels, is cherished by the Holy Spirit, and is protected by God Himself. Let us birth this into our lives right now. That's what A Course in Miracles is about. You have the awareness within you. It's just time now to let it shine forth. And that's why we do this miracle moment, to talk about some of your questions, to really help you integrate the principles of A Course in Miracles. The most important thing we can do in life is learn how to take these spiritual truths and apply them in our businesses, in our interpersonal relationships, working with our families, working with our kids. That's always a challenge for us. How do we make this practical? Well, the Course is incredibly practical. And the focus of the Center over these 40 years has been to help you experience the practicality of the Course and apply that into your life. And I'm really excited about the fact that I have a life partner with me for the past 30 years. We have been married. This year is our 30th anniversary as well. So we have a lot of landmark events taking place. I knew Paul a few years before that, so we've walked this path together for 33 years or 32 years, or it seems like an eternity. No, it seems like just yesterday that I met this dashing young man with brown hair, and now his hair is fully gray. So that could be my fault. I don't know.
I don't know.
But our wonderful kids. He brought two wonderful children to the relationship, and then we had our wonderful son Jeffrey. So I'm very grateful. Paul is a student of the Course and has been a student of the Course for as long as we've known each other, so now going on probably 32, 33 years. And I'm grateful to have him here.
to help me
share this miracle moment with you, to help me share this awareness with you. You know, the Course defines a miracle as a shift in our perception that allows us to experience the love that is always present. So what it's telling us is it's so easy to get blocked and to get stopped up in all the judgments and all the fears and all the doubts and all the guilt of the world. But we can have a miracle. We can have a shift in our perception as we allow the Holy Spirit to transform our minds. And here's the beauty of A Course in Miracles. It says we're asked to remember the truth about who we are and join with the Holy Spirit, and then he takes that truth and he transforms not only us but the world, and then he comes back and he gives it back to us multiplied and magnified. So our light becomes even stronger, and it becomes stronger as we give it away. Nothing is ever lost when we give it away. When love is given away, we only grow stronger, and I've seen that in our interpersonal relationship with mine and Paul. And the work that we do, not only with A Course in Miracles, but our work that we do with our inner city kids, with the choir and kid singers. And in so many ways, we grow together. So I want us to really start doing the work. You know, if you feel like you need a change in your life, if you feel like things have been a little clogged for you, if you look at the world, circumstance and situation, and you go, why are things happening the way they're happening? You want to see a miracle, you want to see this healing, then it's time for us to remember who and what we are. It's time for us to assume the Spirit. I am Spirit. I am one with God. I am the voice of the Holy Spirit. Use me so that I may work your miracles in this world so that we can transform this world and allow it to become heaven on earth for us. So we're going to do that right now, Paul. You want to join me in that?
Sounds good. And I'd like to add just a few things. It's really indeed my pleasure and my privilege to be able to to partake in these kind of miracle moments. And you broke that down so beautifully, and I love that the whole phrase about being nurtured by angels and by the Spirit. And one little tidbit about that, we had that particular phrase. A good friend of ours, when we adopted Jeffrey almost 20 years ago now, had that mounted and put into a little plaque, and it sat above his bed and his crib, and we still have that still in his room. And it's such a beautiful phrase from the Course, and every time I read that, it reminds me of how transformative the Course is in our lives. And I want to thank Beverly, because 32 years ago, when I first came to A Course in Miracles, I had just come out of about 30 years very much in a fundamental Christianity. And so I had a very good knowledge of what the Bible said. And the Course and the transition to me really transitioned to something that I felt the Bible should have always been. I mean, really transformative to our lives that we can apply in a very inclusive way. It didn't exclude anyone. And I really appreciate the teachings and the ministry that the Course in Miracles and the Miracle Distribution Center has had in my life.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I'm going to invite you to transform yourself over to the piano, and we're going to do a little meditation. It's going to be a little longer meditation than we usually do on our miracle moments, but I really want you to feel this and to feel the power that this is saying that abides within you, so that we can do what that little thought from the Course says, is to allow this newborn purpose to be nursed by angels and cherished by the Holy Spirit and protected by God himself, and allow that to be born in us right now. So maybe keep that in the back of your mind as we do this meditation right now. So if you'd like to join me in closing your eyes. And again, I say this all the time, but if you are driving or walking, and many people listen in portable ways now. So if you are doing that, the idea is simply to turn inward. We don't need to stop our meditation times or stop that unity and joining with God simply because we're so busy in our lives. Every moment is an opportunity to awaken. Every moment is an opportunity to experience the presence of God, to know that I am Spirit, to know that we are Spirit. So as we take a deep breath, let's breathe in that truth, and let's just release in the exhale of that breath anything that seems to block us right now, the fear, the worry, the judgment, the depression, whatever it may be. Just let it go for a moment. I know you're probably thinking, oh, I've got lots of things to worry about. I've got lots of things to be depressed about. I've got lots of things to be upset about. concerns that are going on, but not in this moment. Right now, you have an opportunity to experience a miracle. You have an opportunity to experience the answer that you have been seeking in those challenges. So that's where we want to keep our focus. So we take another incoming breath with that thought that I am spirit. And as we exhale, it is to release the blocks to the awareness of that thought. And as we keep breathing in and out, to know that I am spirit, and I release anything that seems to block it. I am spirit. I am spirit. We state again the truth about yourself, the Holy Son of God, who rests in you, whose mind has been restored to sanity. I am spirit. You are the Spirit, lovingly endowed with all your Father's love and peace and joy. I am spirit. You are the Spirit, which completes himself and shares his function as creator. He's with you always, as you are with him. Each time you practice, I am spirit. I am spirit. I am spirit. Awareness is brought a little nearer. Sometimes 1,000 years or more are saved. The minutes which you give are multiplied over and over. For the miracle makes use of time, but it is not ruled by it. You are the Spirit, in whose mind abides the miracle, in which all time stands still. The miracle in which a minute spent in using these ideas becomes a time that has no limit and that has no end. Give then these minutes willingly, and count on him who promised to lay timelessness beside them. He will offer all his strength to every little effort that you make. Therefore, give him the minutes which he needs today to help you understand with him you are the Spirit that abides in him and that calls through his voice to every living thing, who offers his sight to everyone who asks, replaces error with the simple truth. I am spirit. And so we begin with the words the Holy Spirit speaks to us, and let them echo round the world through him as we affirm, I am spirit. Spirit am I, a holy Son of God, free of all limits, safe and healed and whole, free to forgive and free to save the world. I am spirit. Expressed through you, the Holy Spirit will accept this gift that you received of him, increase it in power, and give it back to you. I am spirit. And so we offer to him this thought, and he will remind us that we are spirit, one with him and God, our brothers and ourself. So listen for his assurance. Every time you speak the words he offers you today, I am spirit. He is affirming a silent yes. I am spirit. He is there to help you in your challenges. I am spirit. He is there to remind you of your unity with everyone you see or think of. I am spirit. We are spirit. And let him tell your mind that this awareness is true. And use this truth when faced with temptation, so that you might escape its sorry consequences. Don't yield to temptation, because you are spirit. You are spirit. I am spirit. The Holy Spirit gives you peace today. So receive his words and extend them to him, to your brothers and sisters, to anyone who passes your mind and thought, to every living thing. And by doing so, we bless this planet, and the Holy Spirit gladly returns the energy that we have set forth and gives it to us, so we might feel the mighty power that abides within each and every one of us right now, to know our unity, to know our oneness, to know our Father, to know that peace that passes all worldly understanding, but is his gift to us. I am spirit. We are spirit. And Father, we are so grateful for this truth. And we invite that Spirit to speak through us right now, to be our eyes, our ears, our hands, our feet, our words, today and throughout this year, that everything we do and say may be the truth of this thought, that we come from the Spirit and the unity that we all share, that peace may prevail on this planet. And we are truly grateful. And together we say, Amen. Well, thank you very much, Paul. That was beautiful. What a powerful thought. I am spirit. There's so many great lessons like this in the course. This happens to be lesson 97, so it's earlier in the workbook. And it's saying, let's show the first few couple of paragraphs on this. It says, today's idea identifies you with your one self, reminds us who and what we are. It accepts no split identity, nor tries to weave opposing factors into unity. It simply states the truth. You are spirit. That's the truth about you. Practice this truth today, as often as you can, for it will bring your mind from conflict to the quiet fields of peace. What a great metaphor for us. It takes us out of that conflict of the world to that quiet fields of peace. When I said that, Paul, when I said that as you were playing, I know, but could you feel it? Could you just feel that
Every
sense
time you
of
said
peace?
Spirit, it was just very calming,
Yeah.
and to reassure ourselves that is our essence.
Every time I said it to myself, and I could feel that sense of peace flow over me. And that's why this is so powerful. The Course gives you it always says you need to develop your own problem-solving repertoire. And that's really important for us. We need to have the things that we can rely on, the thoughts that we can think of when we are facing challenges and trouble. What is the thought that we need to focus on? This would be a great one. It calms us down. I am spirit. I am spirit. And in doing so, we're saying we're identifying with this one self. We're removing this idea of a split identity. We are, it says, weaving opposing factors into unity. So what it says is it takes all these opposing thoughts that you have, that you build up, and it brings them into a thought of unity. So it doesn't ask you to deny any of the challenges you're facing. It asks for you to look at them and let the Holy Spirit reinterpret them in such a way that they can be transformed. And you can see the thought of unity even within the chaos. You can see why, there's chaos theories that helps you to understand why is it that I can understand find some sense of unity in the midst of chaos. Science even says this. There's a chaotic unity. And that's the same thing. It sounds like an oxymoron, sounds like it shouldn't work, but it does. And so we can bring these chaotic thoughts and allow the Holy Spirit to reinterpret them, to bring them together, to tie them together into the truth. That's what this lesson says. It brings you to these fields of peace. It takes your mind out of conflict. It doesn't allow fear to rule you. Your mind has been absolved, it says, of madness, letting go of the illusions of a split identity. See, we don't get that. We look out and immediately we assume and affirm separation, right, Paul? I mean, you look out and you see bodies. We just had a powerful lesson last night on the course, well, actually a few weeks ago on the course, where we were talking about the section in the course. It's called The Call for Faith. And it says the moment that we project our ideas out, we project out and we see form. And the form is very distracting. It's quite alluring to us. We love to get involved in the form. And once we get involved in that form, and once we get caught up in the world of form, we get lost. And so we forget this truth, I am spirit. So it needs to be introduced again to our minds. We need to be refreshed in this over and over again because we are so identified with the things outside of ourselves. And that is not the truth of who we are. Now, it doesn't mean we don't deal with the things of the world, but we have to deal with them from a new perspective. Otherwise, we just get the same chaos over and over again. Mm-hmm. We get the same chaotic thinking over and over again. But if we can rise to the level of who and what we are, we will face that chaos or that chaotic thinking in a new way. And I really believe that's what Jesus did 2,000 years ago. I think that's what he was born to bring to us, was that the world may be the world, but we have the power to change our mind about the world, and in doing so, we begin to transform the world. It may take 2,000 years, but I think it's going to be sped up a little bit. The course came about,
that's what
right?
Jesus was talking about
Yeah.
when he said, being in the world but not of the
Yeah.
world. And the course teaches so much about, the world being the illusion, and it talks a lot about how much the body is, and it talks about how much the body isn't. I am not a body, I am free, I'm just as God created me, which again drives us back to the whole idea that we are spirit. But, we walk around in these bodies every day. We get up and wash our hair and brush our teeth and do all those other bodily functions, and the Course never negates that. But it does say our essence is our spirit. Let's not forget that, and let the body be used for the healing of the Son of God.
Right. I was going to mention this a little bit later, but I'll mention it now. There's a great line in the Course that says, the body was not made by love, but it can be used by love. Yeah. It can be lovingly used by love to help the Son of God along the way he goes to God. And I think that's what we're talking about here, too. Introduce the truth, that drop of water, as the Course often says, on that dry and parched earth. Introduce the truth into our minds, and it begins to transform it. Just like when an area is dry, and you finally do have a good rainstorm, it seems to come alive. It was always alive. It just was dried out. So the same thing can be true for us. We're always spirit, but we can sometimes be dried out in a way that we don't know that truth about us. The world has beat us up and brought us down so much that we don't know who and what we are. And that's why this says, it goes on to say, we state again the truth about ourself. And it uses that capital S self, meaning the truth about who and what we are. And it says, the Holy Son of God who sees this rests in you, this truth about you, whose mind has been restored to sanity. You are the Spirit, lovingly endowed with all your Father's love and peace and joy. You are the Spirit which completes himself and shares his function as creator. He is with you always as you are with him. So we get this beautiful thought that sometimes it's just impossible, seems almost impossible for us to understand what it means. What in the world does it mean? And what this is saying is you don't have to understand, you just have to do it. Our understanding is not necessary. And part of the reason why our understanding is not necessary is we cannot comprehend at the level God is. And that's okay. We can't even, I think for most of us, Paul, you'll probably agree with me, don't even know what love is. We get moments and glimpses of what the kind of love the Course is talking about. It's not just sexual love. It's not just fraternal love. It's a love. I think probably the closest we come to it is maybe with children. A parent to a child how we would just give so much for that
I think
child.
love is one of those concepts that you just can't, it's a concept, but
Right.
we all have moments in our lives
Yeah.
when we experience that. And
Right.
there's no doubt about what we're experiencing.
Right.
It's sometimes it's beyond the feeling of just reaching out and feeling like we're part of something bigger. I think that's sometimes love. The love that we would feel to try to assist someone and really feeling good about trying to help someone. There's so many different ways, but I think it always goes back to what we are experiencing from that. I know that we've often talked about this, and I don't want to get off the subject here, but we often talk about how much course and metaphysical principles are coming into, they've always been there, but they're coming into the writing in our movies and our TV and everything we watch now, this concept. And I do know that when you ever go to say a good movie and you start experiencing that love that is being portrayed on screen, it's something we all know. We inevitably resonate to that. There's no way that we can't, because our essence is love. So to try to define it is right. You can't really do it.
It's funny because this paragraph, the second paragraph in this lesson, is really just telling us the truth about ourselves. And the Course often does this. It'll introduce an idea, then it reaffirms who and what you are, and then it adds a little bit extra to it. But it's funny, as I was looking at this, I watch The Middle, which is about a family in Indiana, in the middle of the country. It's what it's all about, and they're kind of their plight, and they have 2 kids, and or actually 3 kids. I mean, that's probably Brick's problem, is nobody remembers him. They got the oldest boy, and then they've got the middle girl, and then the boy's out of college, went to college, is out of college, and the girl is still in college, and the little boy is in high school. And we watch them grow up, on this show, and I enjoy it. It's a fun little show. And she wanted to go to Christmas Eve. That was the family tradition. Well, the boy is now old enough to say, why do you go to Christmas Eve service? You don't even believe it.
To church on Christmas
To church. She says, why do you go to Christmas Eve service? And she says, well, she couldn't answer him. She really couldn't answer him. And that kind of drove her nuts. It's like, why is it I don't know why? And she says, I go because my friends are there. And he goes, well, that's really not a good reason. And she goes, I go because they're donuts. I always love the donuts. And they're so good. So I go because of the donuts. And she started going through all these things that were surface. And he kind of went, see, that was it. And she began to feel like, she doesn't even know why she goes. And she began to think about it. And her answer to him, as she was getting ready, dressed to go to Christmas Eve service, thinking, well, he's not going to go with her. And she walked in and said, I know you're not going to go, and that's okay. I'm not going to make you go. But she said, what I do want to say is I think I did figure out why I go. She says, it's just good to know we have a lot of craziness happens in our house. And they are. They're the nice Roseanne, but I mean, their house is a mess. You'd never want to be in their house. I mean, they can't use their oven because their comforter's in there and the oven doesn't work. And they don't, it's the washing, half the time the pipes are breaking. So they're kind of a crazy family. But she says, I just like knowing that in the middle of all of our chaos, somebody's there. Somebody's on my side. And she says, that's what I get, the feeling that God's on my side.
And that's what.
And that was it.
Yeah.
And after she said that, and she said, so anyway, I just wanted to let you know that. He got up and got his coat on and went with her to church. She says, you don't need to say any more, but I'm going.
I think that's one of those moments that I was just referring to, and thank you for mentioning that, because that's one of those moments where all of a sudden you feel touched.
Right.
Because I think he's going because she kind of admitted, well, I really don't know why I go, but I like to have feeling like there's something bigger out there and somebody's got my back.
I just said somebody's got,
moment,
but she knew that. She knew that in all of the chaos that was going on in her life. And brother, they have a lot of chaos in that household. They can never pay their light bills. They never make dinner. I mean, they're really kind of it's funny. It's an exaggeration. Like I said, it's a nice Roseanne. She's not as mean as Roseanne, but it's that big exaggeration of a family.
Yeah, but
that's
what I
just
want to
in
say
chaos.
is that,
but it works.
in that moment, I think he felt love for his just to go because his mother kind of liked it, but since she kind of admitted
she made
didn't know,
sense.
and then he said, "Yeah, I'm going to go with you."
Yeah, and she made
Don't
sense.
say another word. He said, "I'm going."
Yeah, but she made sense. She said the thing that we all know without articulating it. I think is there's something bigger going on here than us. And I think that's the most important thing, where it says in this second paragraph, we state the truth about ourself that we don't often know. And we're so caught up in the circumstances of the world that we don't often know there's something bigger. And when we take these moments to step back, that's when we know we're something bigger than ourselves. And that's kind of what I gathered from what she was saying, is I'm bigger. There's something bigger going on here. And that's what I like the reassurance of. And I feel that. And that made sense to him. And that makes sense to us. That speaks to our hearts, that there's something bigger going on here. And so then this lesson says there is something bigger going on here. And now I'm going to show you how to get there. And that's the third paragraph, where it says, today we will bring reality closer to your mind, because every time you practice this awareness, you're brought a little nearer, maybe even 1,000 years or more of time is saved in us having to just trudge through this world. It's bringing us to that awareness. I mean, all of the words that this little Frankie had said to her son, was ended in that one thought where she says, I just don't feel like I'm alone. And that's all it needed. And that it spoke to his heart. Kind of the same for us. We don't have to go through this, all this stuff in this world, if we can allow a miracle to shift us. And it says the minutes that you give to the Holy Spirit are multiplied over and over for miracle. The miracle makes use of time, but is not ruled by it. And that's what I love about this. It's like, hey, the miracle is going to work here. And it's not about up to you to figure out how it works. And that's what helps me so much, because I look at the chaos in the world, or I look at the chaos in life, and I go, from my perspective, from my limited perspective, I have no idea how this would ever be healed. But he does.
Yeah, that's
he
one
sees
thing
that
about
bigger
the Course.
picture.
It never says to analyze
these
things, and we do want to analyze way too much instead of just stepping out and letting it work in our lives.
Well, that's why the Course says your understanding is not necessary, just your willingness.
Exactly.
Just your willingness to be healed. So it goes on to say in that fourth paragraph, the Holy Spirit will offer all his strength to every little effort that you make. So if you just go, I just said, I rest in, I am spirit, or I rest in God. That's one of my favorite ones too. But I am spirit, I am spirit, I am spirit. Just the little effort. And you said, well, I didn't give much. He doesn't care. Just the little teeny effort, he adds his strength to it. And it says, give him then those minutes that he needs to help you understand with him, you are the spirit that abides in him, the power that abides in you, and that calls through his voice to every living thing. Can we imagine that? When we join our mind with his, when we say this thought, we're touching every living thing, and offers his sight to everyone who asks, and replaces error with the simple truth. We went to that Christmas party right before Christmas, and we met a service dog. Remember that? I think it was Elliot. Elliot, the service dog. Such a pretty service dog. Such a beautiful service dog. And I don't really understand service dogs, but they said this dog had a temperament to be a service dog, meaning it would sit there and look at you. And I found myself just looking in those beautiful brown eyes and kind of going,
there's there again, I think it evokes from you that resonance of love.
Yeah.
And I was talking to the owner at the party, and she said, there's very many scientific proofs now that when you exchange glances with this dog, there's all kinds of endorphins and all kinds of these healing chemical properties that are happening in both the dog and the person, the human being that's exchanging these ideas. And it's really a beautiful, because they're being used now more and more in hospitals and
for the
homes.
families that are waiting for their loved ones to come out of surgery to relax them, and they bring these dogs.
But it's this connection. It's what we're talking about, this love that can't be explained.
Yeah, the dog isn't going to explain to you what's going on. He just looking at, or she was just looking at you, and you could feel it in those beautiful eyes. Now, what if all of our eyes were like that?
Yeah. Well,
it's been called the doorway to the soul. So let your eyes shine, with that kind of awareness. And I think that's kind of what this is saying. And I know that dog is empowered by that. Yeah. You can kind of feel that the little, this sweetness. But the dogs still like to get those treats, because I was sitting feeding them under the table.
Well, don't we all?
I loved it. Anyway, it goes on to say in the fifth paragraph, the Holy Spirit will be glad to take 5 minutes, of course, is always asking us to give it some time, but any amount of time from your hands, I like this idea, and carry them around this aching world where pain and misery appear to rule. You know, oh, wouldn't you like to just be released of some of the things you think you have to control
Yes.
in this world? And it says, by doing so, by offering this, that I am spirit, by offering this, it says, he will not overlook one open mind that will accept the healing gifts these things bring, this idea brings. And he will lay this healing gift everywhere. He knows that they are welcome. And he will increase in healing power each time. This will increase in healing power each time someone accepts them as his thoughts and uses them to heal. Same thing for us. When you say uses them to heal, you might go, well, what does that mean? I think it is to just be that place of healing, just like that service dog was. That beautiful dog was just a place of healing. And she brought me so much peace just by watching her walk around. And then watching her when she would come up and look at me. And it was like, you just felt so connected to her. She was just a beautiful, calm little soul. And I felt that energy. It was like I gave her that energy and then she gave it back to me.
Yeah.
And then it goes on to say, thus with each gift to him, it'll be multiplied 1,000-fold and 10,000 more. So when we say I rest in God, we just made a lot of blessings on this planet. And that we experience that back. And when it's returned to you, it says, it will surpass in might the little gifts you gave. And then it uses a metaphor. As much as does the sun, the radiance of the sun, outshine the tiny gleam a firefly makes. An uncertain moment and then goes out. The steady brilliance of this truth, this light, remains and leads you out of darkness, nor will you be able to forget your way again. It has a tendency, I don't want to make these words magical. The Course isn't making any of our workbook lessons magical, but there's just something very peaceful about that. I know for me, as we talked about a moment ago, when I say those words, it makes me feel peaceful. So I know that as I give those words in thought and deed as well, it will do the same thing.
You know what else I like? The many things I love about the Course, and this is one of the best ones, is that you were talking about it at the beginning of the passage, then it uses it again at the end of it. It's this whole concept of little effort, little gifts, and what you give of a littleness of yourself, what it ever is, little release, little gift, little effort,
Right.
and it so much more is in return.
Right. It
And that's what I
magnifies
love
it.
about the Course.
Yeah.
It's not talking about sacrificing, and you got to give this big effort to really accomplish spirituality. It's little. It's not. We just think it's a lot of work.
It's funny. It's like
in
a
fact,
service.
I wrote an article called "The Big
Right,
Little."
and
It's
that's-
coming out in the January Holy
yeah.
Encounter.
But that's the funny thing, when you think about it. Go back to that service dog. That service dog didn't have an agenda
Yeah,
or a
that's right,
plan set
right.
out.
It just really was.
It just was,
Yeah,
and it was that. And I even said to her, "What's a
the
service
beauty of
dog?" Well, just to be there.
Yeah.
And have the temperament. And I thought the temperament is one of these magical things. What's our temperament? If our temperament is always chaos and craziness and depression, yeah, we're going to want to have you walk around.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a good metaphor for us that dog didn't have to do anything. It didn't have an agenda book that it had to follow, and it didn't have a set out plan that it followed. It knew that its presence or its power was just in its presence.
Right,
What if we knew that?
Yeah.
What if we knew our power was just in our presence? Why? Because of what we are and who walks with us and what abides within us. That was kind of the power of it. That's why this lesson goes on to say then, okay, say this and speak this thought and allow the Holy Spirit to use these words to echo around the world through him. Spirit am I, beautiful thought, Spirit am I, a holy Son of God, free of all limits, safe and healed and whole, free to forgive and free to save the world. It says, expressed through you then, the Holy Spirit will accept this truth, this gift that you received of him, and increase it in its power and then give it back to you. That's kind of, to me, what the whole service dog idea was. You get the gift from him, and then he knows that he's helped you, or she knows, I should keep saying she was a she, increase it in power and then give it back to you. You just felt this reciprocal experience all the time. And that's the same thing that the Holy Spirit and how we can be too. And so then it just says, go ahead and offer this gladly throughout the day. He will speak to you, reminding you that you are spirit, one with him and God, one with your brothers and yourself. Listen to this assurance every time you say, I am spirit. I am spirit. And then let him tell your mind that this is true. It says, use this thought against temptation when you want to be something else. When you want to judge yourself or judge someone else. I am spirit. You are spirit. That we want to recreate, we want to have a course correction in our thinking. When I'm driving and I go, what's that guy doing? He is spirit, I am spirit. He may be not driving correctly, but he is spirit, I am spirit. And maybe we'll slow down. Or maybe we need to get past that person. Or maybe it's good that the police pull that person over and say your driving is erratic. But that doesn't mean that we have to make them bad in the midst of it. A service dog, I find this interesting. They go into hospitals. They're not going to have anybody stop from getting their operation, or any of those things that have to happen. But they're there to kind of help you heal faster. That's another thing I remembered her saying, that these animals help people to heal faster. Well, why should that work? What's the scientific proof on that one? Except there is scientific proof because it does something inside of us. It stirs the embers inside of us of healing because we have the power. We have that power. We have the power to heal. We have the power to transform. We have the power. Why? Because of who and what we are and how we are connected. We are spirit connected to our Creator.
Well, I think the Course is always talking about removing the blocks to love's awareness,
Right.
correct? And so we look at a dog like this and wondering, do they do their 20-minute meditation every morning? But for
Maybe
us,
they
that's
do.
that little effort so it does take some work on our part to remove the blocks. And
Yeah.
basically that work is just, hey, giving it a little letting go
Yeah,
of the day.
absolutely.
And just getting to that place where we're used to, that is our true being, that love essence. So sometimes we really get screwed up. We're really, have a lot of anxiety about something that's going on in our lives. But the Course is always teaching us, yes, you might. But you know what? So be it. That's the way that this illusion is.
Right.
But you always have the opportunity to go back to that true foundation, that true anchor in your life, that love essence.
And two, when you add this idea, I am spirit, into the chaos that you're going on, it raises, the Course is always saying we need to raise our thinking to the level of the solution instead of the level of the problem. And I think that's what this does. It's like it begins to raise us to that level of the solution. It was Einstein who said you cannot solve the problem at the level of the problem. You have to raise it to the level of the solution. And that's exactly what the Course is constantly telling us. And that, to me, is when you add this kind of thought into it, you're coming from a new mindset, a new perspective, and you're raising it to the level of the solution. So that, to me, when you do this, you are absolutely changing you. If they say service dogs create more endorphins and all this, they're changing the physiology of the person. Well, a lesson like this is like your service dog. It's changing the physiology of your thinking, and thereby, if we are thought, and basically that's what science says we are. We're just made up of a bunch of atoms, right? Moving at certain levels. Think about that. I love this because Jeffrey's learning chemistry. Of course, he's been learning this for a while, that the three states of matter, right, are solid, liquid, and gas, right? And the only difference between those three states is how fast the atoms are moving. When we're solids, we're moving really slow, And when our atoms move a little faster, then it turns into a liquid. And then when they move even faster, it turns into a gas, right? So it can be still the same thing. Like water can go from, the solid to, steam, and then finally to totally evaporated, or ice to water, I guess, to steam. And it's the same structure.
Only the form has changed.
Only the form has changed. And so the same thing is true for us. We're becoming more who we are. And it's interesting how, every one of those states takes on the shape of what is around it, like liquid. And that's kind of, maybe we should be a little more liquid. We're so solid and rigid in our thinking, but if we can become a little more liquid, it means we adapt to whatever container we're put in. That's what they say about liquids. They have the ability to adapt. And that doesn't mean that we condone the actions, but we adapt to the place in which we find ourselves and add that truth to it. so that we can even transform that form and move into that gaseous state or that spirit state, So it's a process of becoming. I think it's kind of interesting when you look at it from that more scientific perspective. That's where we're going,
Yeah.
And
So,
So,
one last thing here, if we're almost, is that I used to work for a guy that was really into positive thinking. That was Dr. Robert Schuller. I was a choral ministry through him, through the church. And they'd always teach this positive thinking, and I think it had its really good, its really good principles of always trying to keep a positive attitude. But one thing that I think that it didn't address, which I think the Course addresses so well, a lot of people want to just keep this positive attitude and not deal with the real problems. The Course says, look at your problems and allow these principles to help you transcend those problems, not just by putting your head in the sand and pretending they're not there or being positive about it, but look at them and allow yourself to become more water, as it were,
liquid, if you will,
to transcend around that problem, and then eventually steam, which means, well, you've just gone through that problem.
right.
And that's kind of the way the Course principles work in our lives. And both you and I know that because we experience that. Hopefully we can experience a lot more than we do it, say, a bad day or something, but we always have the potential to experience it. And that's what keeps bringing me back to the truth of the Course.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's take a couple of questions that we've received, and I just always want to invite people that if you ever have any questions you'd like to send in to us, we do these miracle moments occasionally, and sometimes I'll even address these in our study group meetings. So think about sending us a question or two.
I think this is quite an interesting one. This is from Laura from Washington State. Laura says, "Hi, Bev. Could you please tell me what Jesus in the Course means by purification?"
Yeah. And this is an interesting thing. The Course doesn't talk about this a lot, a few places, like about 3 or 4 places. Another thing, too, is if you ever have questions about maybe a particular word or a particular thought, you can go online to our website and go to our services page and then go to the lookup, the ACIM lookup. That is that has the entire course, the text, the workbook, and the manual, and it's searchable. So you could put in the word purification and you could see it come up if you have a question like that. So it's a great service. I actually did that because I knew that there were passages, but I just didn't know exactly where they were. One of the first places the idea of purification comes up is in Miracle Principle. I think it's number 7. It says, miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. And people go, well, what does that mean? Really all it means, well, it's not all it means, it's a big deal. But the introduction to the Course says that our goal is not to create love, because that is beyond what we can even understand or create. It is to remove the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. So purification is, miracles are happening all around. And the Course even says, if you don't see them, you're the one who's missing out, because they're happening all around. That's why this says they're everyone's right, but purification is necessary first, meaning you're not seeing them because you're caught up in your everything else. We're caught up in all of our limits and our problems and our judgments about the past, or our judgments about people, or our judgments about how we were raised, or we have a million things, or our feeling that we're worthless and we're valueless, that we are not spirit. Somebody else is. These lessons are for somebody else, but they're not for me. And that is the big mistake. That's the purification that's what's blocking us from this awareness. And so there's another section, and I think we have those up right now on the screen, that talks in the text in chapter 18 where purification pops up. And this is kind of interesting. It says, purification is of God alone. Really? And therefore for you, meaning you have the right to experience this, just like I am spirit. And if we don't experience that, we're missing all of this truth. Rather than seek to prepare yourself for him, try to think of it like this. It says, I who am host to God am worthy of him. What did we just say? I am spirit, he who established his dwelling place in me created it as he would have it be. So he's done this. It's all there. You just need to know it. It is not needful that I make it ready for him, but only that I do not interfere with his plan to restore to me my own awareness of my readiness, which is eternal. So that's a big one. Because right there it's saying, the only thing that's needful is that I do not interfere with his plan to restore to me my own awareness of my readiness, which is eternal. So it's saying you already have it. You already always. There's two paths of enlightenment. I think it's that the paths of attainment, where we have to get to something before we can experience God, or the always already paths of attainment that have been talked about. That's what the Course says. You are always already God's perfect child. But what happens is you put up the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. So we are interfering with his plan to restore me to my own awareness. We put up our own blocks. We become our own worst enemy. Have you ever said that about yourself? I'm my own worst enemy. Yes. No one else would judge you the way you judge you. So it says, all that is needful is that I make it ready. I am willing, the little willingness you were talking about, but only that I do not interfere with his plan to restore to me what's already there, my own awareness of my readiness, which is eternal. I need add nothing to his plan, but to receive it, I must be willing not to substitute my own in place of it. That I need to not substitute that.
Right.
It was interesting. I heard this said on the news the other day. Winston Churchill once said, Americans will always do the right thing after they've explored every other option. And I love that, because I thought to myself, that's just not Americans, that's all of us.
Yeah. Right.
We will all awaken to this truth. I thought about it in this way of thinking. Once we've explored every other option, once we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, then we'll turn to this truth. Yeah. But could we not do it just a little sooner? Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't it be great if this year we made this year different by making it all the same? How great would that be? Yeah.
Right? Well, I think every experience we have is an opportunity to get out of the way, to recognize that love's presence is always with us. And this whole idea of purification has the idea of there's nothing within that it is going to defile that. In other words, there's no sin.
No.
And we're always kind of in this process, call it that, during this illusion which we believe this reality of this world. And we're always in this process, but it goes back to that same very that principle and that truth about the Course, is that we just need to allow ourselves to be rid of the blocks to that. And I think that there's a great aria in, many of you know I'm a classical musician, and in Messiah, Handel's Messiah, there's a great aria in there. It talks about the refiner's fire. That usually takes much more of a, God's going to get you with the fire. But the whole idea is, and to me, the refiner's fire can be a metaphor for us unloosening those blocks to love's awareness, so that we can get back to that goal that we've never left, and that is the purity of the spirit and the innocence of love within us.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, I hope that kind of helps, Laura. So the idea is, purification means that we need to look. We have to look at those blocks and allow them to be healed for us. So.
Okay, next one. This is from Suzanne in Michigan. She says, I'm studying the Course and have been for some time. Just got into a group and the word karma came up. Was suggested it fit into the Course. I doubt it. What are your thoughts on this? Just trying to stay straight with the Course. Would like any interaction about this matter.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't think it's so unlikely. But it doesn't use the word karma. Now, first off, you have to use the word karma properly. And if you look at karma, it actually means for most people that what I do now is going to mean that I come back as some sort of lowly thing. I'm going to get karma. I'm going to come back as a bug, or I'm going to come back as a cow. That's why in India they don't eat cow, because they think that they'll come back as a cow. That could be their karma. There's a lot of people who feel like that. That karma doesn't really help us, because it keeps us more attached to the world. And that's not even what karma's about.
A lot of people say bad and good karma. And if you've done something bad, you're
No, I'll tell you what it is. If we are all thought, and everything is a thought in the mind of God, then if you will, our karma is always good. You know, it's always the thought of God. It always is that I am spirit. But now here's the thing I think we need to realize, that once we thought that we could be separate from our source, now this thought becomes the world in which we live. So now the thought becomes the ideas we dwell in, the pool we dwell in. And if we are dwelling in the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, then the experience we have in our world will be the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. If we are dwelling in that pool of I am spirit, and my essence is the truth, even though at times I seem to feel blocked to that, if I'm adding that truth to my mind, then if those are the ideas or thoughts that I dwell in, then what will be projected or extended into my world will be that kind of an experience. So that's, if you want to look at that as karma, where you dwell is what you experience, but not some time off in the future where you're going to find out if you're a bug or not, but right here, right now. You know, that we are experiencing it right here, right now, not somewhere off in the future.
And the Course is always talking about our insane, our insane little fantasies or insane thoughts. And again, kind of the parallel here with the Bible is that, the whole teaching that we reap what we're going to sow. And if we are always sowing or buying into those blocks of love's awareness, whatever it may be, just getting revenge with someone or whatever it may be, that's what you're going to experience in your life. If you're putting that out there, you're going to experience it. And the Course is really pretty, that's very incongruous with the Course's teaching, that we need to be buying into these things that are going to bring us peace, going to bring us love. And that is by letting go of these other things.
And it brings us, see, the fact is, and that's what the Course is always saying, the saving grace is, the Course is a fatalistic system. It says your fate is you will return home to God.
Right.
That your fate is that you are always one with God, and that can never change. Now, whether you experience that or not at this point in time is where you dwell, the thoughts and ideas in which you dwell. And so if the thoughts and ideas that you are peppering your mind with are always about limit and lack, then the universe, which is wholly neutral, is going to say, okay, let's just have a limiting and lacking world for that person, because that's what they keep projecting out there. These are the thoughts, not because the world is so limited and lacking. It's just wholly neutral. What it is that's what we're going to seek and find. We are like heat-seeking missiles. Mm-hmm. We're either heat-seeking for attack and hate and judgment, looking for those calls for love and seeing them not as calls for love, but as attacking thoughts at us, or we are seeking and finding, as the Course would say, all the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. So we're seeking and finding those things out there that other people are doing to us as calls for love, right? So now we're looking at those as calls for love instead of attack and hate and judgment. Yeah. So, if you want to look at it from that standpoint, the Course never uses karma, because in reality, nothing can change your truth.
Right.
But you can dwell in a lot of suffering and pain if that's where you choose to dwell. Or you can dwell in this truth. Look at Jesus. During the time of his life, his mind, his body still was destroyed. But he did not share that perception, as the Course says. So that was not the consciousness that he dwelled in. That's a powerful one. And he even says, I made the last useless journey the sonship will ever have to make. You don't have to do that. That was a tough journey. He's even told us that. You do not have to do that. Learn from me, so that you don't have to keep doing it. But most of us still act like we're being crucified.
Right.
So we need to learn from him. What? I am spirit.
And
that could be your big healing factor right now.
We can do greater things than he. I think that's kind of
Absolutely.
an overstatement type of thing about what we can. But the power is always within us.
Right.
And really, we only have ourselves to blame for it.
Right.
For either way.
Or to be accountable for.
Yeah. And that's one thing I really like about the Course. It doesn't, we could be talking about if we had bad karma, we're going to go to hell. Like, the Bible would say, hey, if you haven't been saved, you're going to go to hell for all your bad deeds and all your sin. But the Course says, well, if you want to experience hell right now.
Yeah, it's feeling separate from your brother and yourself and God.
Don't get rid of those blocks and keep buying into the ego thoughts.
Right.
But if you want to experience heaven right now and the peace of God, then do a little willingness, letting go.
Absolutely. And just in this idea of resting in this truth, I am spirit, and saying to the Holy Spirit, use me so that I might experience the power of that. That's pretty good.
Right.
Yeah. I think that covers that, Suzanne.
Okay. We're going to Texas now. Mary in Texas, she says, it seems like a lot of people who study the course are very unhappy people. There are many people in the world who have good lives and don't feel like nothing has worked. Course people think that they are all just misled and are really unhappy and just don't know it.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure where she's getting that idea. I'm honestly, Mary, I'm not quite sure of it. I think I've been more accused of being, a Pollyanna or overly happy or something like that. But I think I kind of know maybe what you're saying. There are a lot of, and we talked about this a few weeks back in our study group, a lot of course people out there that say everything is an illusion. And if you don't understand that everything is an illusion, then you're misguided or misled or, that kind of thing. And I can kind of get that might be where she's coming from. If she was here, that's kind of what I would ask her. But the Course does not ask us to do that. Again, we go back to the simplicity of the courses, and it says to seek and find all the blocks you've built up against love's presence, that those should be clearly looked at, not try to be fixing them, but to clearly look at them with the help of the Holy Spirit and allow him to move past them. Allow him to make you into water where you kind of just gently move past it. Don't be so solid, to move past the solid into the water and finally, as you said, into the gas, We've got to stop looking at these things and saying, I've got the answer, or you don't have the answer. I mean, and you can see that's kind of what happens with people if they're saying, course people she thinks about look at other people and just say they're being misled and they're really unhappy and they just don't know it. Well, if you're a course student, then you've done the thing that promotes what keeps you separate, which is projecting separation, that they don't know it. Jesus never acted like that. That was not the life lesson of Jesus. He never looked at people and said, oh, well, it's too bad you don't have the secret to salvation like I do. He never said that. It was always to help people, to lift them from wherever they were. He didn't, the people who were having the most trouble, probably the people who were spat upon were the tax collectors of the time. And the prostitutes who were lost, had no power, were diminished in society. And he went to them and he sat with them. And he didn't say, oh, you shouldn't be prostitutes and oh, you shouldn't be tax collectors. He just said, he brought love to them. And that love lifted them out of their judgments about themselves. It is love that lifts us. It is not in punishment and pain and suffering that we are lifted, or promoting more separation, and that's the complete antithesis of the Course. But hey, everybody is learning the Course through their own lenses. And in many cases, our ego lenses, even when we're Course students, are pretty thick.
Yeah. And when I was thinking about, Mary, your question here, or your observation, I think, more or less, when I came out, I was in fundamental Christianity for 35 years. And, I think each individual, no matter what faith they are, if they're really a Christian or if they're Muslim, a Buddhist, or even if they're an atheist, I think I've met people who are unhappy and happy in all those, faiths or in lack of faith. And I think you look at the person and you see how they're handling or they're managing their being alive. And so I don't think you have to look at the Course and can make, well, why is everybody appealing unhappy? Well, how do you feel? Mm-hmm. How do you feel?
Yeah.
Are you feeling unhappy because everybody in the Course is unhappy? So, it may be a gateway for you to look within yourself and say,
Yeah, there's a lot of passages in the Course that say whenever you experience something to simply say, what is this for me?
Right.
And so that may be it. What is this for you? When I look at this, I kind of think, well, I don't take it offensively that people think that Course students are unhappy. So much of the workbook, though, is about God's will for me as perfect happiness. I share God's will for happiness for me. I think that we all have a lot of unhappiness and can certainly dwell in that. But to me, when I start saying things like I am spirit or I share God's will for happiness for me, it begins to add that element into my soul or my mind or my thoughts that begins to lift me. It lifts me. So
Yeah, in some way too, I feel like the Course, when you see that it does, call the world the illusion, and of course we always see, but we're living in illusion. We need to be healed of that, thinking that is the truth. I think that just living through this last year or so with this political contentiousness that our whole nation is in, to me, it's a great relief and it's a great happiness that, boy, this is all just a smear. This is all just really insane. And I don't have to buy into that, even though I want to be involved and engaged in whatever I can do to maybe make things better while we're here. And I think part of that is our own spiritual journey of making ourselves better and more peaceful and more loving. But I think of this movie, again, Beverly and I really love catching these principles out of movies. Remember Wag the Dog with Dustin Hoffman played a very famous movie director. And they were trying to do a project in which they were doing this movie and scripting it, and everything
it was a political
going
thing
wrong.
that was going
Yeah,
on. He came in to script politics.
Yes,
Yeah.
But everything was going wrong, and Dustin Hoffman would say, "This is nothing. This is nothing." And I think how often I've used that when looking at something and I think is going to destroy my life, and thinking, "Oh." The
This
Course
is
is saying,
nothing.
it's not going to destroy your life. And, it's...
Well, because the eventuality, as I said, I'm a fatalist. We're all going to return home to God.
That's
so if
right.
that's our
And
reality, nothing in this world can change it. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't help our brothers along the way, or that Jesus, why did he even bother coming? He came to help us to awaken to that truth, that we had fallen asleep to that, and we needed to awaken to that truth. We have some wonderful helpers in our technical people, but I need to know a time. Oh, we're fine? Can you give me a perspective? Okay, all right, thank you. All right, well, let's go on to our next question.
Okay, our next one is from Laura in, another Washington state here. If God did not create this world, why did Jesus say, "Are you ready to help me save the world?"
I love this because, yes, God did not create this world, but we believe in this world. That's why he's saying, "Are you ready yet to help me save the world?" Because we believe that something has happened, something has gone wrong. And because we believe something has happened and something has gone wrong, then we need help out of this, right? So that's why it's saying, God didn't create the world. And that's what the Course even says this too. God didn't create the world. God didn't condemn the world. Nevertheless, it says he keeps saying, the salvation for us is forgiveness, right? The Course talks about forgiveness being our salvation. So it says, but salvation is just an illusion. So why would God create an illusion? Well, his love created the ability for us to find a way out of the mess we've made. That's really what the Course would say. Is that thank God, God doesn't see this world. If God saw this world, that would mean this world was real. But nevertheless, he knew his children felt some attachment to this world, feel some pain and suffering in this world, and so he offered us an answer through the Holy Spirit, through the message of Jesus. And Jesus is always pointing us to our higher truth. The Holy Spirit is always pointing us to our higher truth. Wasn't he doing that in the lesson, I am Spirit, pointing us to our higher truth? Wasn't Jesus doing that all the time when he walked this world, pointing us to our higher truth? He's saying, come on, are you ready yet to assume the mantle of the truth about you? Which is that you are a holy child of God, that you are spirit. Are you ready to assume that mantle? Because if you can, then we can move this tired world along. If you give me a few minutes, I'll save thousands and thousands of years, as that workbook lesson was saying. That's pretty powerful. So yes, God did not create the world, but he uses everything within this world lovingly to help us awaken to what we truly are now. The truth about us now. That's a pretty big
It's funny because I look
awakening.
at that as a Star Wars adventure.
Yeah.
Because it's like the almighty creator energy of the universe saying, "Hey, why don't you take my hand? Let's go save the world."
Yes.
And, what greater adventure can we have? And most of that starts within our own journey. But as we are doing our own journey, we inevitably are helping others do their journey.
Right.
Because we're so connected, and then we don't see ourselves as separate. And yes, we can help them go save the world. The Course is very, very explicit in that. I'm the light of the world, and I can save. And he wouldn't ask us to do anything if he didn't expect that we can do it.
Well, and again, I think what she's
if we're
trying to
looking
say,
at it in those terms.
and I think what Laura's trying to say is, well, if God's not seeing the world, why do you
Right,
have to save the world?
yeah.
Well, because you believe in the world.
Yeah.
It'd be fine if you didn't.
yeah.
But we all just took a breath, so we
Yes,
believe we're bodies.
right.
And we all probably found a nice, comfortable seat to sit in, and most of us made sure that we weren't sitting under the air conditioning and that the temperature was right, and our coffee wasn't hot enough, so we'd send it
That's
back.
right,
So
right,
we all are, as
Yeah.
much as we'd like to say it's all an illusion, most of us believe in the illusion, and therefore we need help to help us lift us out of it. And that's what the Holy Spirit is for. That's what Jesus is for. That's what forgiveness is about. That's what a miracle is. Hey, if we knew we were one with God, we wouldn't need a miracle. We wouldn't need forgiveness. We wouldn't need Jesus. We wouldn't need the Holy Spirit. We'd be back to where we were. But because we do, we need 365 lessons and some 600 pages in a text to move us to that awareness.
And you know what's so funny
It's
about
okay.
it, at least funny in a way of descriptive way that maybe is not really funny, but what's interesting about it is that we're really invited to go to a party, and that's how we're going to save
Yeah.
the world. Our
Yeah.
happiness.
Yeah.
He says this world is going to end in
laughter,
in
yeah.
our laughter,
Because
and
it's a place of
happiness.
tears, yeah.
And wow, I'm not going to turn that down. We like to party wherever we can, right?
Sounds good to me. Yeah. Okay. Why don't we go to the next one?
Okay, this is in Mary in my home state of Nebraska. So I guess Mary's a Cornhusker with me. Why do we pray if it is going to be God's will anyway?
Isn't that a nice thought, though?
Yeah.
It's God's. What do you think God's will is for you? I go right to a Course in Miracles. Yeah, I go right to a thought from the Course. Perfect happiness. God's will for me is perfect happiness. I go right to these workbook lessons. They're my problem-solving repertoire. Is I go right to that thought, God's will for me is perfect happiness. Why do we pray if it's going to be God's will? Because if it is God's will for me that perfect happiness is his will, don't I want to get in line with that will? We pray so that we can purify ourselves, remove the blocks to the awareness of love's presence so we can know that will. Wouldn't all of us love to know that his will for us is happiness? Wouldn't we just be just overjoyed if we knew that that was the purpose of us getting up every morning, that that was the end result of every relationship, that that was the result of every job we ever went on, every test we ever took, is perfect happiness? You know, I think that's pretty exciting. So we pray because not because we're going to change anything, we're going to change God. We're going to get in line with his presence. Help me to see as you would have me see.
It's aligning ourselves.
Absolutely.
And again, it's, saving the world, this whole thing of God's will, what it really is a collaborative venture.
Yeah.
And we pray because it's really for us, not for God again.
No.
But it's like you said, it's to get ourselves in the alignment of the truth.
Right.
And we need to participate in that.
Absolutely. Let's jump to number 7 there, Paul, real quick,
Okay.
because I want to answer her question because I want to get people a little bit.
Okay, this is from Tracy in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, there is a catalog of all the videos of the weekly study group.
Is there
this
a
7?
catalog? Yeah, it's number 7. Is
Okay.
there a catalog? Yeah.
Okay, hi, there's a catalog of all
Is
the
there?
videos of the weekly.
Yeah, it's there. She's asking a question.
Oh, is there a catalog? Sorry. Is there a catalog of all the videos of the weekly study group where I may select the lesson being discussed? I find so much value as Beverly explains the concept, so I thought I would ask if she has videos for all the lessons of the year, and are they available to share?
I
Thanks
want
so
to
much.
thank you, Tracy. And the only reason I wanted to jump to this is because we're running out of time right now. But I want to make sure that everyone knows that we don't necessarily have every lesson probably done yet, but we're working on it. But you can go to our website or call the center and find out how you can subscribe or become a weekly listener. Because if you do that, then you have access to, over hundreds of video archives. And we do have those listed so you can see the lessons that are being talked about and the sections in the text that are being discussed. And, if you are really wanting to be a serious student of the course and you really want to start, and I say this too, not just a serious student of the course, but how do we integrate it? Because to me, that is the key right now. Ken Wapnick has done a magnificent job of articulating a lot of the course's thoughts. But how do we integrate these thoughts? the world is changing constantly. We are faced with so many different changes all the time, whether it be terrorist attack, whether it be political challenges, whether it be interpersonal relationships. We're constantly facing these. And that is one of the things, and that has been the hallmark of Miracle Distribution Center since we started in 1978, is how do we make this practical for you? And that's why I think that people enjoy our work, is that it does address the practicality of the course and makes it interesting and usable in our daily lives. So I just wanted to bring up Tracy's comment, because we're right at the end of our session here today, that if you are interested in that, I encourage you to become a subscriber. It's not very expensive to do that. And I think that you'll find a great blessing out of it, a real benefit for it. And it helps us to maintain our services. We'll be here for another 40 years. I'll be old by that time. But another 40 years if we have your support, and we do appreciate it. You know, at the end of the year and coming into the new year, and being here as long as we have, we hope that we have been of service to you, and that you have been a steadfast friend with us. We know you have been, and we ask your support to help keep us going and help keep us being a viable service to students of A Course in Miracles around the world. So I want to thank you so very much for listening. I want to thank my wonderful husband for being here with me and sharing these thoughts. I want to thank everyone who shared their thoughts. I want to thank Bill and Darren for making sure that we were seen and heard, because without them, I don't know what we would do. And I want to thank, again, all of you who have supported the center over these 40 years, because if it had not been for you, we would not be here. And we appreciate your support, and we thank you. And we'll continue to see you in the new year. Thanks again for joining us.
We hope you enjoyed this free live stream of Miracle Distribution Center's weekly meeting. As with all of our services, production costs for this live stream are funded by the generosity of donors like you. The suggested donation for this broadcast is $10, but feel free to give whatever you can. Your tax-deductible donations are critical in keeping this live stream available. Please consider making a contribution by clicking on the Donate to Support These Broadcasts buttons above. If you'd like to watch this meeting again and have access to meetings in our video archives, please consider becoming a weekly subscriber for as little as $5 a week. Information on how to subscribe is available below. Thank you for joining us this week.